Yeah, Marco Tempest is, one of our original Arnie members. He didn't pay me any money to say that. But Marco has been on a little venue called TED Global. You might have seen it a few times. Yeah. So Marco's done some incredible things. So anyway, I just want to mention that because a really funny thing was years ago when I showed up to the Arnie meetings, Marco was there doing this amazing trick. He is a techno-illusionist, and he showed this amazing trick, and I was watching him, and after he was done, I said, you should go around doing that trick, because people might actually pay you money to do that, and like a few weeks later, he's on TED Global, so I felt very silly telling this international techno-magician that, so it was pretty interesting. Okay, before we get going, I do want to thank Ori Inbar because he really has put together a rock star group today. I think we really need to get one of the big things with augmentedreality.org is that the whole purpose of it is to educate, connect, and hatch. And one of the things that I do is I'm a founder of something called Augmented Reality Dirt. And it's a podcast that is really the only podcast out there on augmented reality. And what I try to accomplish with my co-host Bobby Simpson, who I think is showing up late, is we're trying to connect all of the different augmented reality, augmented world people together under one roof. And what we're seeing is that there's a gentleman by the name of Chris Grayson, who I'm sure you've heard his name. He started to put together a website through the Augmented Reality New York meetup, where he was trying to connect all of the meetups, AR meetups, all around the world. And we're trying to continue that mission of what he's done. So we have awesome meetups like AR Barcelona, AR Detroit, AR Chicago, who Patrick O'Shaughnessy is a member of, and trying to bring all of these people together and get this information out there. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. I'm also a police officer. Anything I say does not represent my police department. So I want to tell you that. Okay. So, all right. So let's get going. I want to kind of lay out the layout of our talk here. Is what we're going to be talking about is AR and the impact on society. We might as well say an augmented world also, and the future impact on society. And we've already heard a lot about that throughout the day. But I want to introduce our panelists. We have very distinguished guests. We have Dr. Stephen Feiner, who from Columbia University, who has been working on AR for a very long time, and I consider him to be one of the godfathers of AR. So he really is an award-winning scientist. He actually created the first outdoor mobile augmented reality system, and that was back in 1996. And how many pounds did it weigh? 45. 45 pounds. Okay, so and then obviously Blair McIntyre here also. Working with Dr. Feiner, but we have an incredible group. The next panelist is John C. Havens, who just came out with a book called Hacking Happiness. John is a contributing writer for, I'm sure you've heard of Mashable, The Guardian, The Huffington Post. He also is really a killer harmonica player, but we're not going to have him play today. But John has an incredible insight on big data, and Ken, I don't want you to shoot me when I say that, but he really has an awesome perspective on that, and I think that ties into really the Internet of Things and kind of where we're moving. Our next person is Track Lord, which you've already heard from Track. He's a really energetic, charismatic person who truly has traveled all over the world, representing Matayo, and enough said about Track. He just really is a very intelligent guy, and we're going to look forward to getting his perspective on where he sees AR and the augmented world moving forward. And finally, you heard from Dr. Ken Perlin, and we're gonna get into his mind too. It's just he has some really interesting things to say, more beyond what you've already heard, kind of on where AR is taking us and how that's going to influence us. So with that said, I know that nobody here really likes to make predictions, but we're going to understand that our panelists are not mind readers, and they don't know exactly what's going to take place, but we do want to get their input on where things are moving. So I first want to kind of start off with how we're going to do it is I'd like each panelist to, and we'll start off with Dr. Feiner, Steve, who will basically just start off for about 3 minutes, just talking about where you've come with AR and kind of what's the biggest thing you want to really talk about today with the future of AR.
That's a very, very big question to try to answer. As I think Joe has mentioned, I've been doing AR for quite a long time. Started in 1991 with indoor things with little tiny displays that we had to partially manufacture ourselves, all the way through head-worn displays outside with 45 pounds worth of backpack, through things that were more like handheld tablet PC devices, the first generations of smartphones. And nowadays, we never really stopped using head-worn displays, being very, very dear to me that that's really the way things are going to go prior to the implants and genetic modifications of some distant future. It's just very gratifying right now for me to see them actually coming back into fashion, so to speak, again, and being something that people actually talk about and try to build commodity versions of. So a lot of what I'm interested in is not just the hardware. I don't really do optic design. I don't really build low-level hardware. I've done things that have required a little bit of those skills just to be able to make stuff when stuff wasn't available. But my main interest as a researcher is in user interfaces, is in the software infrastructure that underlies AR experiences. And how do we make systems that actually work well from the standpoint of a person in terms of how you interact with them? There's a term that I've been using for quite a while, environment management. The idea of being able to actually make experiences that are not just things that live on the featureless black rectangle in front of you, whether it's a big screen, a really, really big wall-sized screen, a little tiny smartphone screen in which you, the designer, owns every single pixel. And either it's as black as the manufacturer can make it, or it's filled with vibrant color. I'm much more interested in when I'm looking around and I don't own every pixel. This real stuff out there that I choose not to ignore. This is not VR, this is augmented reality. And therefore you need to make experiences that respect and pay attention to the stuff that's actually around you. And that means you need to, ideally, unless you know about things in advance, and no one's really good at predicting, you need to on-the-fly sense what's happening out there through a variety of different means, and then make augmentations that react to, that pay attention to, that work well with the real stuff that's happening. And I think that's one of the things about AR that makes it especially challenging. We're not just looking at a fait accompli, we are controlling a small portion of what it is that you're going to see. There's a lot of real stuff that's out there that we need to interact with. We have to not block things that are really important, and we may want to actually block things that we think are as being less important. So that notion of making virtual things that naturally weaved or woven into the real world experience, and it makes sense in terms of the real things that are happening out there, that keep you from getting run over when you're trying to cross the street by not having, a big advertisement in your face as the car bears down on you. That's, I think, one of the things that's going to be really, really important, and one of the things that I try to work on in little ways in my life.
John?
Where's Blair McIntyre? Hey, Blair. Thank you in the sense that it was about 4 years ago, someone, I think I was at a meeting at Walmart, I used to work in VR, and someone showed me, hey, this is augmented reality. It was like a Pong game, and I was like, I could care less. I didn't know what it was. And then I saw your AR shooter, an amazing video with the zombies getting shot, and you put the Skittle in the middle. And that video blew my mind in the sense that I said, this is not about, games are great, but I said, this is, someone told me the term Habernet, and I said, this is not the internet, this is the internet. And I salute everyone that I'm sitting here with. I'm not worthy in the sense of if I don't make this stuff, I dream about it and write about it. And one area I'm particularly interested in is what I call virtual air rights and aspects of the ownership of the data that is involved in what you see. And in terms of the book I just wrote, is I'm also interested in our identity and how that's broadcast via what I think is inevitable, again, by the people, I worship you again, who are creating this stuff.